Hello, and welcome all of you who are listening and watching this podcast. Today we have Chris Adderson with us. Welcome to you.
Thank you, Anne. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, and I'm so curious what you are doing and all these things. So tell us a little about where are you coming from, first of all?
Where am I coming from? Okay. You mean physically, location-wise?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. There's so many dimensions we can come from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in BC, Canada. So
Okay.
I'm not on the West Coast directly, but I'm inland a bit in BC.
Okay. So you have kind of winter now.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We're in the dead of winter. It's like
Ooh.
minus 25 here today. And yeah, life just revolves around feeding horses and keeping them warm at this time of year.
Yeah, and keeping ice from the water as well.
Yes, yes, we
Mm.
do need to look after water. And luckily, we have spring-fed water that comes down the
Oh,
mountain. It's gravity fed, so it's continually moving. And
wow.
so it never freezes, which is a really good
Yeah,
thing.
that's fantastic.
Hmm.
Really. Must be pretty as well.
Yes, we are. We're in a pristine mountain valley that's very peaceful and quiet, and we're part of nature. We're part of wilderness here.
Mm, wonderful. So tell us a little about you, about your life with horses. How did you get into that and where are you today?
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, I think where I am today, and speaking to your followers and you, is because of an event that happened, a tragic event that happened about 5 years ago. Um, and that was I woke up one morning, a cold, bitter morning like today, where there is a clear sky and the wind was icy and we were just barely keeping warm. And I looked out my window, which looks out upon my horses, and they have a pasture and shelters. And I saw the horses up in the corner of their pasture, all huddled together, like really tightly huddled together, which was very unusual. And I stared at them from my window and I saw and I counted each of them, and there was one missing. And it was my Andalusian gelding, who was my heart horse, who I had been working with for 22 years, um, and had a very deep relationship with him, and he was missing. And then I scanned over the horizon and I noticed that the barn, the horse barn, had collapsed.
Wow.
Eh, Yeah. And so, uh, yeah, from there, I called to my husband and I didn't know what to do. He ran outside immediately and he was looking for Merlin, and I heard this scream echo through the whole valley. And he discovered that my horse had been um, sleeping through the night. And early in the morning, when the barn had collapsed, it fell on him and the snow load had killed him. And
Wow.
it basically broke his neck. So he had a very quick death, which I'm grateful for. But it was an extreme situation where we had incredible amount of snow on the roof of the barn, and also through the night a wind, like 80 kilometers or more wind, which was unprecedented for here. We'd never
Extreme. Yeah.
extreme. And so that snow load and the wind caused the building to go down, and all of the horses got out except Merlin, my
Wow.
horse. So that event is what totally changed my mind and has brought me here, because before that I was Working on my own, for 20 years, I had my own herd of mostly rescue horses, and
Hmm.
it became my laboratory of exploration where I brought horses through metabolic issues like um, founder and laminitis and healed their feet. So I delved deep into barefoot trimming, and I used these rehab horses to teach myself and to heal them. And then they went into my riding program. And so these horses who had come from backgrounds of mostly human intervention that was poor and detrimental to their health in all dimensions, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I healed them and I gave them a purpose that they enjoyed, that they felt that they were part of my family. They were part of my family, and they went to help people, on to help people. So I I had that laboratory of wonderful horses that taught me so much. But I was mostly working on my own. I mean, I had traveled the world before that teaching clinics. And then I decided I'm going to zero in on helping horses here and with me and improving my education. Because a mentor of mine once said to me, take care of your horsemanship and your horsemanship will take care of you. And so I took that very seriously, and that's what I was doing for 20 years here on this farm. And then when that tragic event happened with Merlin, even, I had him to high level dressage, um, where we were enjoying, things like a Spanish walk, piaffe, passage, and on a daily basis with him. And it was a harmonic way of presenting dressage, not like
Hmm.
what you may see other
Yeah.
places today. Um, I that event just I just when I sat in total shock afterwards, I just realized, well, I have to speak up. I have to come out. I have to speak up. I have a lot of knowledge and passion that I can share with the horse world for the purpose of helping horses and people with their horses. And so that's how I ended up then deciding to write my book, to develop an online program where I can reach people around the world without having to travel to all these destinations. I can still be here and work with
Hmm.
my horses and do that at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. You were talking about you were going for clinics. What did you teach in the clinics?
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I became certified instructors with several organizations, I guess you could call them. And so that's where I went out and taught these clinics. And one was natural horsemanship
Okay, yeah.
oriented, and um, another one was uh, connected riding, which is teaching people how to ride. And so through those two organizations and their certifications, I went teaching. And then um, I basically overdosed on traveling and teaching
Yeah.
and that kind of scene. And so that's when also I decided about 20 years ago to focus on staying here and really going deep into knowledge and experience and writing a lot about um, how I could incorporate my previous pro dancer life before I got into these organizations. I saw so many parallels between the dance world and the horse world, and how I could incorporate all of that into what I do with horses.
Mm, exciting. So you have been dancing as well.
Yeah, yeah, I was a professional dancer for
Yeah.
um, many years until my mid 20s. Um, but I had a very unique experience with dance and a progression with dance, because the dance that I pursued was basically it was based on Martha Graham dance technique. So it, which is back then it was, I guess, people could think that it was kind of voodoo or not really voodoo, but um, a totally different perspective on movement.
Okay.
She was a pioneer in developing her technique, which of course did not, it was barefoot. There was no point shoes. It wasn't vertical and that kind of classical orientation. It was into the earth. It was a grounded dance. It
Mhm.
moved from the center of the body. And so her approach back then was fresh and new, and so people looked at it and they were, they couldn't open to it, a lot of them. But now she's since passed away, but now her technique is infiltrated in all dance, in all therapy, in all human therapy. Her movement is, in classical ballet companies and in uh, therapists who are teaching movement, they use her philosophy. So I had that background. I had the background of Martha Graham technique, Jose Limon, which is a more lyrical type of dance, but still grounded and very communicative in nature. And yeah, it did me well because it was quality movement, not that other dance isn't, but it was quality movement that came from the center of the body. Okay, so if we compare that to what we see these days, sometimes in modern dressage or competitive um, dressage, you will see that there are a lot of extraneous movements of the horse, like flying legs and
Yeah.
contorted bodies, um, which comes from the misunderstanding, the spectacle that we as humans sometimes, well, a lot of that we want to see, but how do we get that? How do we get a spectacular performance? There are different routes to get there. So the type of dance that I experienced and lived and performed in um, came from the center. It's an organic, very quality movement that comes from a place that perpetuates well-being and longevity rather than degrading a body. So that's what I wrote about for those 20 years, was how can I take that dance experience and what I learned there, and how can I apply it to riding horses?
I can imagine that your body is in a good shape when you're dancing a lot and smooth and can follow the horse. In that way, it will help, I'm sure. How do you otherwise use it for the horse?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, yes, it's true. Because of my training, I do have the capability to do that, to follow the horse, to have integrity within
Mm.
my body. Um, and that is something that's not taught in a way that I teach it to most riders. You know,
Mm.
like people come to horses from different occupations, maybe a pilot, maybe a software, maybe
Mm.
a surgeon, whatever. And our lives are spent mostly sitting in front of, sedentary, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
sitting, and we have prolonged sitting times. And so I have broken it down into a framework that people can follow that addresses all avenues that we need as riders. Okay, so to answer your question, yeah, we do need to have a certain amount of physical capabilities to be able to be around horses. Horses
Mm.
are the masters of movement, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's their way of
Mm.
one of their ways of communicating is through movement, and that's their brilliance. So if we don't understand movement ourselves, that sets us up with a handicap. So I teach my students um, how to understand movement. First of all, with their in their own bodies. How do we move from our centers? How do we accumulate a certain amount of coordination and strength and tensegrity within our bodies to have the ability to access energy, which is a huge component in how horses communicate with each other,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
we have to understand how do we energize ourselves, how do we resonate, and how do we communicate with that resonance to then ride in harmony with our horses so that it doesn't become the aids and a mechanization of the aids and body parts. And that's where my dance background came in, right? It's not lift your hand and do this gesture to cause this to happen. It's organically, how do you move from your center to take up space in your environment, to move in a shoulder in down the long side with brilliance rather than a shuffling and a kind of steppy thing, right? That
Mhm.
all of us have experienced. Like I'm sure all of your listeners have felt that very frustrating shoulder in, for example, where it just doesn't feel right. It
Mhm.
just feels flat and it shuffles along, and you're like, it's this doesn't feel good.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah. And so um, that's where I begin, is I begin helping riders to actually feel what quality movement is like in their body and how to influence themselves, which then they can take to their horses.
Wow. Do you teach them to dance first, or you just use the movements, or how do you do it?
Yeah, in essence, we do. Um, and I refer actually in my book to this question that you're asking me now is like, well, what do you do with
Mhm.
horses? And I say, well, just imagine if you're at a wedding and you're sitting at a table and you've had the dinner and now there's a dance about to start. And so there's that time in between the dinner and the dance where the music's playing and people are apprehensive, like who's going to get up first? It's not going to
Mhm.
be I'm
Yeah.
going to sit. I'll just have another drink and right, I'll just
Mhm.
wait till someone else goes up. And so usually the people who will go up first are those who have had some in quotes dance training. And so let's say you see a couple of uh, two couples go up on the dance floor and one couple is dressed in blue, one other is dressed in red, just so that we can identify them. And so they're dancing to the music, and each couple has the steps down pat, right? They're doing the steps to the, let's say, the waltz or a far, whatever. They're doing the steps. And so they're moving with the music. But you find that you're watching the couple in blue more. And the couple in red is there, and technically they're both doing the same thing and they're proficient technically, but your eye keeps getting drawn to the blue couple. And so you watch the blue couple and then you divert over to the red again. And then you're like, no, I got something about that blue couple draws you in to watch them. What is that? What is it that causes you to be drawn to the energetic presence and the way those two people are dancing with the music?
Mhm. It's
And that's, what's
in it
that?
energy and movement. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. It's that compelling feeling that you get inside of you where you can see the joy in that couple. It's
mm,
beyond the steps, it's beyond the aids. It's beyond what it feels like. It's like it's just that essence of the dance.
mm,
And that's what I teach people. So it's so yeah, I basically teach them the essence of dance and how to find that and what it is in that they're looking for, which all of us are looking for.
mm.
We
It sounds very, very good. I'm always say to people they are riding dressage and everything becomes so serious. You have to make the movements the right way, and you train and train and train, and as you said, it's just don't feel right. So that is a feeling that we are not getting.
hmm yeah, that's right. We are all looking for that.
Mm,
Whether we know it or not, like whether it's in the forefront for us or not, that's what we want. And that's what, most of my students who come to me want, right? They want to find that specialness with their horse. And yes, they have lofty goals like riding in Grand Prix dressage. It's not that we disregard the technical capabilities that we need to do that, but we're not going to do it at the detriment of ourselves or our horses. We're going to do it and still keep the life and the energy and the expression that the horses have, and ourselves. Yeah.
sounds very nice. Do you have a lot of students? Do you have them at home, or you still travel a bit for getting students, or how is it?
Um, well, I have an online program which
Hmm.
works amazingly well to do the distance teaching and distance learning. And the way I've set it up, it's very, very successful. So I have students around the world. I have students locally too who come to me here as well. And
Okay.
I do travel a little bit, not very much, to, if I have a few students in one location and they're in my program and we have a language together that we understand, and they've already, started, they're working on all the fundamentals, and then I will go and we'll just, refine things.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So this online, is it videos or how is it? Um,
Yeah. So the way I set this program up is a holistic approach, right? So it's incorporating all the dimensions. So when I set it up, I didn't purposely offer, a course in lunging or a course in jumping or a course in trailer loading or I and this is my flagship program, is that I strongly believe that we need to address, and for a bit, not having a better word, mindset at first. So we need to experience the transformation first
yeah.
before we can step into this new paradigm. And basically, that's what I'm proposing, is a new paradigm that so many people want right now, is like, how do I do this? We need to have experience the transformation first, because you're either open or you're defending.
Mm,
And if you're defending, then the inform we won't percolate with all of it. But if you're open, then you're available, right? You're present and you're available. So there, in each of the online modules, there is that component to it that helps us to constantly be permeable and open and available to what comes our way. And yeah, then there's the technical component. It's like, how do we move? How do we do this? And then we have regular calls on Zoom, like we're doing right now, right?
Mm,
We do calls like this, which are very, very beneficial because we relate to each other and to our horses, and what one person might be experiencing you've never you don't understand, but through these calls you then understand what they're going through, and then you can go and apply it to your horse. So, and then there's also the private sessions with me too. So it's all encompassing, and I don't think there's another resource out there that I know of that shows the rider how to take a thought, to move from a thought that a person might have, take that to an intention, then take that to an action, considering environment, horse, person, energy, then embody it such that the horse understands, and then meet and engage with the horse in a harmonic resonance.
mm.
Yeah.
Who are most of your students? Is it dressage riders, jumping riders, or it's just people who want to get along with the horse, or who is it?
Yeah. All of them want to get along with their horse, and
Yeah.
all of them want to be the best that they can possibly be for their horse. Um, as far as disciplines go, some are dressage riders. I have one student who wants to pursue dressage and is working her way up to, high level dressage. Another student who wants to just hack out or go on trail rides, but not to the detriment of her horse's body or mind. And just for her, as an example, her horse, she had a young horse. She had three horses, and her youngest horse, who she had from very young, um, wouldn't go forward. And
Mm-hmm.
so she, there are several ways to make a horse go forward. She didn't want to do that, and so she wanted to delve deep into why didn't the horse want to go forward? What was it that she was doing? Where was the gap in the communication or the methodology or her process that wasn't working? And so then we figured that out, and she can now enjoy her horse going on trail rides. So all different walks of life. I have another student in the UK who um, she was a high level jumper, younger in her life. She, I think she's in her late 50s now, and has a family and a highly stressful job. But she found that her life wasn't satisfying or fulfilling anymore, and she was anxious all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew deep down that the horses were trying to help her with the anxiety, but she couldn't get over it. She could not. She was fearful of riding her horses. And I have photographs of her jumping over these large jumps
Mm-hmm.
when she was younger. But she had this incredible fear, and she just she couldn't get rid of it. And so she came into my program and worked through the curriculum and the meetings with us. And now, and then she wanted to give me a testimonial video, but now she's in her job as an accountant. She's like moved to the top position. She's now bought two or three more horses. She's riding. Um, she's confident. She's doing flying lead changes, she told me the other day. Um, yeah, so it's all about empowering us. And yeah, we go through life and we have challenges that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't know they're there, they're residual, they're they're haunting us. We don't know what they were, what they are. And this was the situation with her. She couldn't tap into what it was that was lingering within her body. So our approach is not just a mindset, um, you know, talking type of therapy. It's the whole body. So I
Mm.
use movement to help people to discover these things, as well as other ways to really get deep, to really go deep into what's happening that's causing this person to um, not be able to do, right? To lack confidence, to lack self esteem or self trust,
Mm.
those things that we need. And our horses, of course, know that.
Yeah. They do, yeah. And a lot of people today are stressed and yeah, anxious, and as you said, it's this mindset thing is fantastic if you can get your horse to help you as well. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
And it's not that I use the horses as therapy, because I think that can be taken too far as well.
Mm.
Um, it's just that the horses can help us to explore ourselves more
Mm.
through guidance. Yeah. The horses just want to see us as a benefit, right?
Mm.
They want to see that whatever we do with them, it benefits them. It feels good. They're able to express themselves, whatever. And they can, movement doesn't lie, and horses don't lie, but people do. And so they can see, where we are. They can see what we're dealing with.
Mm.
And I have one I'll give you an example of how I teach this. I call it the greeting. And it's teaching people how to go into the space between you and your horse, right? So that, which horses know so well,
Mm.
because they have to, right? They use murmuration when the herd is spooked and they all have to move together, right? They don't bump into each other. They know that space between the bodies so well, the energetic space. Um, and so, but people, we don't. I learned that as a dancer, dancing with a group of other dancers. I learned how to tune into that space very precisely, so that you not only pick up the physicalness of it, but you know what the other dancer is feeling. You know um, what their next step may be, right? Because of the attunement or the tunefulness, that process that we need to work on. And so we always want to greet another being. It can be a horse or another human. We always want to go through that process of greeting the other being. And that's just one avenue that I teach. And then then we actually go to the technical aspects of contact. And what are the fundamentals of contact? Right? These are fundamentals that are not taught, or if they are, they're taught in a way that's confusing, right? The term feel, this ambiguous, mystical feel that we're all supposed to have when we work with horses, but it's not put in a language that we understand, perhaps, or the language that is used is actually coming from a place of mechanism or mechanistic approach or dominating approach that is not the language that is what we need to actually do what we do. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Yes.
Okay, you're with me? Okay. So in my book, I've worked for probably decades, determining what the language is and
Mm.
articulating the language that we need to be able to use to understand that then puts the right kind of energy into us through those words, that then we can go to the horse. Yeah. And so to relate back to contact, um, I call it coadhesion. Okay, so it is essentially contact, but the way I describe it is the a coadhesion between two individuals where you know the space between you. It can be at liberty, which is a large amount of space, perhaps. It can be in very close contact, but still the fundamentals of that coadhesion are the same. And we need to know what those are. We need to learn what those fundamentals are and how we can achieve that.
Mm. I can imagine it's difficult to write it down because when you are talking about feelings, you can describe it in different ways, but to write it down in a book, that must be difficult.
It was difficult. It was really difficult. And again, I drew on my dance background a lot when I was stuck. I went back to what I had experienced, and that's the way I've written my book, is that I want to take readers through a journey, through an experience, so they can actually feel the outcome. That's my goal anyway, right? So they can feel the outcome of what we're all looking for. And so um, as I went back to my dance background, I pulled out certain parts of it to illustrate the coadhesion and what that's like to, for example, um, take up another person as if you're going to dance on that dance floor, but to take up that other person and become so tuneful to them that you feel their breath, you know the rise and fall of their body, you know if they're coming from their center, you can instill the biotensegrity within their body so that they do come from their center, so that when you both go to move and take that first step, you're ready. And then it's not like, okay, clunk over here, and it's a disjointed, uncoordinated effort of a twosome. Yeah. So, yeah, that's just an example of how I wrote the book.
Mm. Who wouldn't like to experience that? Just dance with your horse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one chapter in my book is how do we do that? How do we have a thought and convert that to an intention and then an action? That those are fundamentals that are not taught,
Mhm.
right? We're just told to put more leg on or ride from
That's
the
right.
inside
Yeah,
leg to
that
your
one.
outside leg.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
For
But
example.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I often talk with my students and I said, what do you think the horse is thinking when you're sitting on the horse and you're thinking, oh, I have to pick up the kids. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? Maybe we should make a circle up here and uh, poor horse, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of us being in the greeting, right? Part
Yeah.
of what's explained as presence
Mm,
and being in the moment. And it's not that we don't use our intellect, but what we do is we know when we're in our intellect and we know when we're in the greeting state, right? Which is connecting deeply to another individual. And
mm,
we know how to shift between the two. And we practice that so well. We rehearse it as if we're rehearsing a dance piece. We practice that so well that we can do it instantly. We can go in and out of, oh yeah, I feel my horse's left hind is not as is weaker at this moment, or like just from intellectualizing exactly what's going on because we have a feel, then putting it into a thought, and then moving that thought into intention. I need to spiral more. I need to access this more. Oh, we've lost our the rotation of the spine. Okay, we need to do right. So we're flipping in and out of the intellectual, what we know, our knowledge, but also we've tuned so deeply into the process of that, and we know what what the coadhesion feels like. And so when it doesn't feel right, then we know how to problem solve, basically,
Mm.
because there's going to be problems, right? There's always going, not problems, but just things that come up,
Yeah.
whether your horse is spooks or they're looking off in the distance, when whatever. There's always things that are going to happen. But if we have worked with this tunefulness such that we can take all of that information in about our environment, our horse, what we are experiencing, and then work that in a process using these fundamentals, and I call them patterns, where we have rehearsed them such that they are second nature, then there's more safety, right? It's safer
Hmm.
because we respond rather than react.
Yeah.
So we have safety. Um, we also can be quick because we have done this before and we've experienced it. So we know, oh, I have lost the outcome that I'm looking for, which I call hum. I've lost hum with my horse. It's not there. What do I do? We can go quickly to where whatever pattern we need to do.
Mm.
Oh, we've lost the greeting. My horse is now somewhere else. One of us is not present. I'm thinking about dinner tonight. Oh yeah, flip back into
Mm.
being present. What part of the greeting are we not in, right? What have we lost? And then we know how to get it back.
Mm.
And the more proficient we can be at those skills, the more beneficial we are to our horses, and the
Mm.
more our horses appreciate us. And so then that spirals in a very positive back and forth. The more our horse sees us as a benefit and appreciates the contribution that we make to them as an equine and to the herd, then they give back. They contribute to us because that's what they're all about, right? They're not egotistical and have agendas. They just want to get along. They just want to move with us as they do with their herd. They want peace and they want to be able to express themselves.
Mm.
Mhm.
And as you said, it becomes more safer for the human when you have these skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with horses, right? We need safety is always first. They're
Mm.
large animals. But in being large animals, sometimes I've noticed people um, don't realize the subtleties that they inhabit within themselves,
Mm.
right? They have the capability of very subtle communication that we don't have because of our upbringing, because of society pressures. We've lost those subtleties. And this is where I have another experience that I write about in my book that I drew upon to to express what I was talking about. And that was that I didn't speak for the first 20 years of my life.
Wow.
I had a trauma myself that caused me to basically shut down verbally. And so I developed what I call the integral expression. I developed to a high degree the ability to communicate without words, with other beings,
Mm.
without words. And so that's what I teach as well, because we all have it. We all have this integral expression from birth, right? The first thing that a foal does or a human baby does is cry or
Mm.
nicker, right? Express themselves.
Yeah.
That's needed for survival. You need to express that you're hungry or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, but as we go through life and we then start to speak and use language and words to express ourselves, the other more subtle way that's integral to all of us
Mm.
gets drained away from us.
Mm.
And so we lose touch with that. And it's logical that we do because of the way we're brought up and the school system, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I do also is I put people in touch with that integral expression, which is communication, right? It's the fundamentals and essence of communication without words, which is what we
Mm.
need with horses.
Yeah, and as you said, we human, we have forgot how to do it. Um, you can feel it when you travel. You get to people, they don't understand your language, and you start to communicate anyway, and you point and you're using your body, and somehow you can understand them in the end.
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar to different languages
Yeah.
and not understanding what the other person is saying because it's the words are not familiar.
Mm.
But um, the body language is what we go to, but it's deeper than body language, and it's more like it's getting back to the energy again,
Mm.
right? It's what we perceive through our higher self, right? Our intuition. What is our intuition telling us? What do we perceive that that other person needs? What is that other person saying without words, right? And that's um, like it's a place where we access our higher self, perhaps in the moment. And perhaps it's in a very challenging situation. Perhaps it's not. But a lot of times we disregard our intuition, don't we? We get a feeling or a gut feeling, and oh, no, no, no,
No,
just carry on, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Or um, in a very difficult situation where we have extreme fear and we feel we're losing control, which relates to horses a
Mm.
lot. We get into that place where we're fearful and loss of control is staring us straight in the face and we don't know what to do. But what we can do is we can go to our higher self if we have um, run that neural pathway before, right? So if in my program I work a lot with the nervous system and right how the brain coordinates to the spine, et cetera, and it goes quite deep, but um, it's all to help us prepare to be ready to work with our horses. And when we're faced with difficult situations, we need that, right, for safety again.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow, there's a lot to think about there.
It is a
Mhm.
lot to think about. It really
Yeah.
is a lot to think about. And it's not the easy route, right?
No.
What I'm proposing is the paradigm shift. It's more difficult than what is taught, sometimes in a mechanical way. It's much easier to tell someone, do this, do that,
Mm.
right? And they don't know why. And right? They don't own it, so then they can't replicate it when they need to, when the do that is not being dictated to them. So it's about owning these skills yourself. So you're empowered to use them when you need them. and then you can work on those deeper things that were, that relate to the relationship of the horse, that are, I mean, so amazing when you experience a horse
Mm.
that really wants to be with you,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that was my
Right.
Merlin, that horse that got killed. Yeah, he, and I have another mare right now too, but um why would we, why would we want to be with horses if we were if we couldn't access that, right? We all want that.
Mm.
And I know that. It's just that some people, we it's just hard. It's not the easy route to get there by any means. It requires a change of belief systems sometimes.
Mm.
It requires developing skills that maybe you don't have, but that's exciting. And it requires being able to problem solve in a moment. Right? Horses and people are basically a reflection of life, what we need to do in life.
Yeah. And maybe it's not easy, but it's yeah. If you do it the easy way, life would be hard. And if you do it the hard way, life would be easy. So I always think about that when there's something that's you can't get through to, but just
Mm-hmm.
work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And really, when you get into it, we say hard, and yes, it's not easy. But when you start to delve into it and you experience you can't turn back,
No.
right? So it's like it draws you in.
Mm.
And even though it's hard and difficult, you become addicted to that amazing, juicy feeling when you're one with your horse and you're both resonating at the same level and you know each other inside out. You're like almost as if you become each other
Mm.
in all dimensions. Like, how amazing is that? Why would we do anything else?
No.
And so, yeah, even though it's hard, it becomes a way of life that is undeniable, and just you can't quit.
No.
Yeah.
So, how can people get in touch with you if they want the book or want to your course?
Yeah. My book is not yet published. It's
Okay.
almost there.
Mm-hmm.
As we speak, it's being formatted, and I'm hoping that it'll be out middle of February, close to, right? So in
Mm,
a couple, 2 or 3 weeks.
that's close. Yeah.
Soon, I'm hoping, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be available on Amazon, both in soft paperback and hardcover. There'll be color, um, original paintings from amazing artists
Mm-hmm.
in there. And so that will be available. But my website is forthehorse.com, FORTHE horse.com. You can get a hold of me there. I'm on all social media channels. So I'm out there now, even though I
You're
wasn't
meeting
five.
meeting people online, just like me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Mm.
online. Mhm.
It's great. Thank you so much for coming today. It was very interesting, and I really hope that your book is coming out and it goes well for that. And thank you so much for you people who have been listening and watching this program. And please subscribe because it helps me to reach out to more people around the world. So thank you very much, Chris, for being here today. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome, Anne. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. and bye bye.